Yo, 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 yo. So let me turn that down a little bit. Something like that should be good. Okay. So, boop, there we go. Yo. Hope you're doing well. We are gonna just jump right into it, keep working on our heavy metal album cover. We're gonna be jamming some tunes, basically the Quake Champions soundtrack, while we're doing it, as good mood music. So let's kick over. And this is what we got so far. If we take a look at, let's go to, this was our first composition, kind of the rough idea, as it were. Basically, you have the drowning pools of blood, you have a giant, kind of a Beastmaster, big statuesque horror, and then drowning pools that there's a line of people going and they're kind of feeding into this pool of blood type things, and you have the crazy background and stuff. And this is the sketch that got approved, so they're like, yeah, we can't wait to see that. So that is what we're gonna be looking at here. And this is the more kind of refined version. I'm still gonna change a whole lot about it, but yeah, we just threw down some quick value and grayscale, did some quick color overlay stuff right here, added our guy. The design's gonna change quite a bit, for sure, but let me go. Actually, let me merge all of these layers. Select all, copy merged, there we go. All right, here we go. So really what we need to nail down is the scale. How far back is our statue? Is the huge beacon, like, how far is that? I think let's see. Wondering if I should make this structure more ingrained into the mountain, like make him almost emitting from this mountain that we're looking at, or if we should make him like behind the mountain. Because I think it's a cool idea to make him almost like, what are the names of the statues in Lord of the Rings? that are doing the gatekeepers, that are like, they have their hands out and stuff. So maybe we have kind of a demented version of that sort of motif. Let's see. Because I think something cool we could do to add some scale. Let's see if this works. Something like that. Something like that, like birds kind of flying across. You can do the same thing. Let's see. Just kind of these distant birds to give a little bit of scale. And then, really, I think the fun of this one is going to be the people walking into the drowning pools. That's going to be the kind of the cooler part, I should say. We have some of these white glints right here, the same way we have right here. Basically, these will be different areas that the monster, the summoner, or whatever you want to call it, can like get the life from the people sacrificing themselves. So I always like doing the heavy metal stuff because you can get away with doing a lot of fun designs. The stuff that's not your everyday commissions, you know. So and then like I want to make it to where there's the reflection, but I also don't want... I also don't want it to look too ham-fisted in that way. Let's see. Get some sharp edges on a few of these rocks. Because we want this to be kind of like a barren wasteland except for the blood pools. You know? Like this this demigod or whatever has done this for so long that there's no more resource in the world. That this is a tried and true thing that he's been doing for a while. If we get like that, I want to introduce a few of these bright deals, almost like the blood is magic, you know, and that he's summoning up this essence. Thing is, I need to make him look more decayed, but we can do that with some texture and photo bash stuff a little later. Really, it's just about kind of nailing down this mood. Kind of getting this vibe. And someone we're going to look at, I'm going to bring up some reference here in just a second. I want to look at some art by Derek Zabrocki. I'm a big fan of his. He does really fun, cool landscapes. He's worked on like Assassin's Creed and stuff like that. He's done a lot of great dynamic work on landscapes. And I think there's a lot to learn from him, but I want to get that vibe. I want to get that big, vast feel that he's so good about getting in his art, you know. Then like... let's bring this up. Like these other... Instead of that being... I'm doing a lot of, like... I noticed I did a lot of straight up and down shapes. So I'm carving away some of those to make these more rocky. To bring in that tension and kind of that danger. This is what I get for doing rocks with no reference. Everything's just a diagonal shape and a sharp edge and not super thrilling, but it is what it is. So I'm adding some whites, some like pretty stark whites right here, just to really start blowing out the contrast a little bit. Just really subtle to still drive that point home of all of this depth. And let me get a mixer brush. Let me get wet, heavy mix, circle oil, load, solid color. Kind of smooth this out. There we go. Just little hits of like really bright white, but just kind of work it into this atmosphere. So you have that nice atmospheric perspective where that push and pull of light happens. Let's do the same thing right here. Because we want it to be smoggy, we want it to be have a lot of depth. I'm gonna do his hand here in a little bit. I'm like avoiding the hand, of course, because what artist likes to paint hands? No, nobody. That's who. Let's see. So I think what we're gonna do, let me open up, I'm gonna save this, let me open up PureRef, and we're gonna find some stock photo of people like walking like in a market or something like that, just to kind of throw some silhouettes on here. That way we can move them around, get them balanced the way we want, and then we'll do a paint over. So open up PureRef. And then let's go to unsplash.com. All right, and the ones that I find that are good, I'm gonna just drop over here. Let's see. So we are grabbing some reference. So basically I went to unsplash.com and I'm typing in the word market because that's going to be a high density of people, usually either standing in line or just kind of hanging out, you know. Here we go. Here's another good one. Let's zoom that out. And then let's type in crowd. Oh, so here's a good one. So all we really need is a silhouette of different shapes and sizes. So if we bring in like a reference such as this, that should work well because it's slightly different silhouettes, right? You have different walking and stuff. Of course, we don't want to put like literal like businessmen in here, because we want to keep this dark kind of gothic vibe that we have, but having these shapes to look at is going to help. We just want to add variety. We don't want everybody to look like the same person, just taller or fatter or something. We want different poses. Here's another good one. And this is just one person, but it's a good pose. So if I bring this down, let's move that, move that. So yeah, like something like this is good for what we want. Let's do... yes, here we go. So now I typed in Wanderer. This is what we're talking about right here. That's going to be our winner. I think that's going to be our main duder. Here's another good one. This is actually just a great silhouette. Let's see. We'll just do a few more. All right, here we go. I think I found two more that I like. Lengthen new tab, and then we will do this one. Yeah, these are good. Because these are specifically just the shapes. So you have that nice silhouette right here that we can kind of look at. And then this one right here. Yeah, waiting in line would be good as well. What's up, Brady? Because we like that little like expedition, like I don't know. I like that idea that like in a weird way, some people would travel to come and like get in the blood drowning pool, which is really messed up. But that kind of goes thematically with what we talked about, you know, about like people willingly giving themselves up for like a job or capitalism or whatever. And then, you know, they make that journey not knowing that it's, you know, maybe not in their best interest. Because I think, so what I'm thinking is like, if we take this and we copy, let's bring this over, and then we like, what you do is you do this. And then if it's like, hue saturation, we're gonna bring that saturation all the way down. Well, not all the way down. There we go. We'll keep a little bit of that brown in there. Lightness, we're gonna crank that down. Then we are going to get rid of what we don't need. Oh, not for the hue saturation layer. What am I doing? What am I doing? Oh, step back. Step back. There we go. Merge down. This is where we're going to do that. And the nice thing is this will give us our scale. Depending on how we scale the person in the foreground is going to adjust the scale of everyone in the background. Carve out the shape. Here we go. And we have something like this to where now we can kind of paint and play and since it's really like non-destructive, so we can actually let me move them a little over this way. That way I can get rid of all this on the side. And then apply layer mask. There we go. Now he's kind of all by his lonesome real quick. So we will go over here. We will brightness contrast. We will up the contrast. Oh, just on our guy. We will up our contrast and then bring down the brightness. Merge down. So now we have him kind of here, and this is just going to be setting up for scale and things like that. I do like, really the goal is that I want this to almost look like it was shot with like a 35 to 45 millimeter lens, like the viewers there, like with photographic lenses, the smaller the millimeter lens, the more like fisheye it is. And then as you get to like 180, 200 millimeter, it's really like, it has a shallow depth of field because the focal distances can be so far. It's like a telephoto lens. But for the most impact, because we can keep everything fairly in focus, right around the 40-ish to 50 millimeter lens style is probably the best, because it's going to allow us to see the most in focus. Because yeah, if you manipulate it too much, it just doesn't look good. I mean, there's a time and a place for fisheye lens stuff, but since this is going to be more of a direct compositional shot, we can keep it like that. So here, let me get rid of a few of these other edges so they don't bug me. Okay. Okay. That, cool. Okay. There we go. That's cleaner. It's more clean. Ooh, what we could do, we really want to get a rise out of people. We can look for somebody like playing in a puddle and have that person be standing in the blood. Let's do swimming. Let's see. Let's put in water. This one's pretty cool. I don't know if it'll work because it's kind of gross, but if we have him, because it shows the depth of it, so that could bring that illusion of he's like washing himself in it. Oh, brutal. Here we go. Let's do that. Let's bring that, and then we'll bring this one in. Like so. Because see, that's the sort of thing I'm thinking of. They could be like shin deep. I mean, that's just, this is just hardcore right here. I'm curious to see what this looks like. So this is the nice thing about using reference photos, is before you really finalize an idea, you can try a lot of ideas. It just makes for a better piece overall. So it's like, here, let's apply that mask. Man, one, edit, paste. So this is fairly close. So we're gonna scale this guy to be about the same, a little bit smaller. But before we do that, let's do the mask. Then I'm actually gonna keep some of that info around him because I like this sort of splash look. We have something like that. Let's apply. Let's move him down. I'm drawing, oh, so yeah, I'm actually drawing on an actual screen right now. So let me bring this up. So I used to have a tabletop tablet to where you basically it's a 16:9. So depending on where you're at, it only takes a few hours to get used to the learning curve of it. Like where your pin is about the coordinates. Think of it like coordinates. So if I'm in the upper whatever, the mouse is going to be in the upper whatever of the screen. But this is an actual like full on, I'm going to go for a ride for a minute. It's a full on, let me move that, touch screen panel that we're using. So like I'm going on here. That's why I have the glove on, so my hand oils don't get all over my monitor. But yeah, so it's an actual monitor that way. But I've done the other style as well. It's easy once you get used to it. It's not bad at all. It's just I really struggled by not being able to do line art very well, and investing in something like this allows me to improve my line art because it's like drawing in a sketchbook. It's more one-to-one than the other way, because the other way there is a slight curve, like cognitive dissonance to it. But yeah, it's not bad. Let me go here, new layer. Let me mask the layer down to our guy. Let me make this a color layer, and then I'm gonna grab that red. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna color the water. Let's see. I don't know why, but YouTube constantly pauses music videos. I don't know why. So it's a little too bright right here, but hey, be able to do mask, for example, to get close to what you're masking without being able to see where your pen is. Yeah, it's actually not bad, because what you'll do is basically whenever you do a mask, you'll just zoom in. And yeah, after about an hour or so, like you'll just think with the touch part, okay, I know that if this is the halfway point, I know it's a little lower than halfway. So you bring your hand a little lower than halfway and then kind of adjust as needed. It's really not terrible. This is really just to get kind of this. No, the hues are slightly off, but we can fix that. I just want to see how this looks. But yeah, with those touch tablets, kind of the desktop tablets, you can get some great tablets for like $40. XP Pen and Huion are two companies that I really recommend. They have super affordable stuff that's just as good as a Wacom tablet. I mean, like whenever I invested in my touch panel, I got a Huion because it makes more sense. It's just more cost effective and all right. So we have that. Cool. All right. So that. Let's go ahead and merge that down. Now we can start color picking around and start melding this. go. So something like this. We can even make him a little bit smaller, and that should play well. Something like that. Yeah. And like, I do think there's a cool idea with, because how this is almost glowing. I think that if we like made this almost like a magic pool where some of the blood like kind of floats up out of it, because it's just surreal enough, you know what I mean? Like almost like it's like reverse raining. So whenever you have raindrops and they come and they hit, what if you had those hits and the weird like bloop, but there was no rain coming down? Just this really surreal, almost like it's wanting to be summoned up into the hand. Like, because I made the demon's eyes back here glow, like, so whenever they glow, that's whenever he's summoning up the red Kool-Aid, the juice. He's getting lost in the sauce, you know? All right. So what I'm going to do... I actually like this guy's position. So what I might do, let me go to select, all, edit, copy merged. I think I like what we have right now. We're going to paste. I'm going to drag these three in to this group. That way now we're just working on this right here. Oh. Those three are meant to go up top of my group layer. There we go. There it is. Okay. So now we're just working on the one layer. I always like to do that after I do some refinements, just to, I don't know, just to see, make sure all my colors are there, make sure everything kind of makes sense. Let me bring over Pure Ref. Copy. So here's what we'll do. Here we go. So start getting people like that. We go to apply layer mask. Lasso tool, grab him. Cut him out. Now, he's on his own layer. He's on his own layer. Oh. Okay. And then since they're further back, what you want to do is you want to add that, oh my goodness! Beetle wins. I always call you Beetle Twins, because I see the T and it throws me off. What's up, brother? So since these people are much further back, what you want to do, really whenever I do perspective, it really depends. If you're sitting down and like looking out, usually everybody's torso or hips align if it's a fairly straight deal. So that's kind of what we're gonna go with, is we can size our person here any size we want, really, as long as the hips and kind of this torso area still line up, like right here. It's going to look correct in perspective. It's going to make sense to your eye. If you're standing up, it's usually the heads. So the heads would be there. But see, that doesn't quite, for this one, that doesn't quite make sense because of how deep our perspective is going. So it's not a, it's weird. It's not a super hard and fast rule, but it's a good way to sort of make sure that you're on the right track, is make sure at least one of the body part sets matches. See, you have something like this. So you have the hip and then the hip sort of right here. Then they can even be like down here. Yeah, Stroll, what's up, man? I think you're going to be real excited with your commission. It's not quite done. I have to go print it. I have to do the graphite stuff, but I'm also going to spray it with some fixative. That way the charcoal and the graphite and stuff just stays there. I'm also going to hit a little bit of ink around kind of the outline stuff, but it's cool. It's going to be a surprise. So we got this. Oh, I mean, I can if you want me to. I thought whenever you were like, "Oh, surprise me," I was like, "All right, I'll go blank, and only you will be able to see what the outcome is." So that's up to you. We can do that. So we're gonna do that right there. Now, since he's further back and there's a lot of dense atmosphere in this scene, we're gonna add atmospheric perspective. So what that means, let me add a photo filter down here, and let me see if, oh, that just kind of changes the color, really. Oh, wait, I don't want to preserve the luminosity. That helps a little bit. So we'll merge that down. Now we'll do another brightness contrast. We're gonna up the brightness and lower the contrast. The further something gets away from our eyes, the less contrast it has, because we're not up close to be able to see those details. So we're going to do this. We're gonna lower the contrast, and we're gonna up the brightness. Lower that contrast still. Good deal. We're gonna merge that down. Then we're gonna hit it with a lightness layer. We can do levels. Levels would be fine. So we can hit. It's cool because it's really bringing out the red. Really bringing out the red. So we're going to do that. We're going to merge that down. Then, let's actually just do it the old-fashioned way. Boom. New layer. Mask it. Get the fog color. Get our brush bigger. Put our brush to 20% opacity. Oh, that's a little too much because we don't want our person to be lighter than the mountain he's in front of. What's up? Yeah, he's a biggin. He's a big boy. Let's get that. And then down here, a little bit darker actually. Maybe even a little bit darker. He's kind of hiding away. So for the very distant people, this is what we're going to put right here. It's going to be a very kind of silhouette, soft. So we might actually do that. We'll do it mathematically. Watch this. We will take in this around here. We're gonna do this. Let's see if that's that contrast and that's that contrast. We're gonna do this, make it a little bit darker, but it's still gonna be lighter than this pure black that we have. Oh, 100%. That's what we want. So we got something like that. We're gonna bring that color back in here. So I down the saturation a little bit. I down the color a little bit. Something like that should look a little better to the eye. That way he's receding into the background a little bit, and we can even kind of get rid of his sharp little feet to really drive that point home. Blur that out a little. All right. I really don't know. This is more of kind of a, it's a kind of as a summoner. He's sucking up this blood energy from basically a drowning pool, and these drowning pools are just all across this landscape. So basically, he can come over the mountains and like take the energy that he needs, you know. But this is for a heavy metal album cover, or I guess the inside portion of it, maybe of the booklet or of the actual like jewel case itself. So we already made the cover, I believe. But the nice thing is, this I think is the 4th commission with this band. So they're gonna have four to five, I guess, pieces that they can choose from to use however they want. So it's always good to work with repeat clients because you get to build good rapport and you get to like really start experimenting with people. Now we got this duder, so he's good, but we need to fix this duder because he's not good. So if we make him smaller, And then what we might do, I know it kind of breaks the rules that we were talking about earlier. We're going to keep him a little bit darker. Not this dark, but a little bit darker. That way we want to see him. So really what it looks like is it looks like people are on a voyage. They are... Oh, so this is the cover. Okay, dope. So this way you can still see we got our guy kind of right here. You can see people like going on their expedition, almost like they're wanting to visit the giant duder. But I guess they can take a bath in the blood beforehand. Just weird, like it doesn't make a lot of sense, but you can think of a narrative, you can think of a story. That's why I like working with like Warhammer and Varia, because they let you exercise this muscle of make stuff that's evocative and like, oh, it compels people to think of a story, but you're not directly handing over your story like as the artist's intent. It's more, hey, everybody that looks at it's going to get something different out of it, and that's the fun. That's the type of stuff I like to make. So here we're gonna get that, and we're gonna slightly darken it. So once again, it's not as dark as what we have here, but it's still readable. You can still read it. And we're going to go and fix these edges here in a minute. And another nice little trick. Really, visual art is a bunch of tricks at the end of the day. Another little trick is having his head come up above that horizon line a little bit. So have that there. Kind of get rid of those. And then what we'll do, let me grab this, kind of bring this in. Basically, I'm just kind of melding the feet to the ground. And then what we can do is we can grab a few other details and kind of bring those details over in here. That way, this reads like he's actually going down a trail or something. And then we have the red. Something like that. So yeah, from a distance, see, it looks like, oh, let's see. Now these like bright white lights are catching my eye a lot more. So I want to get rid of these. Same thing here. I want to get rid of that light impact. Okay. Oop. Basically, you don't want any of these small little light pixels to take you out of the focal point. And really what we'll do, and it'll be kind of a finishing step, so we still got a long ways to go before we get there, but what we'll do is we'll make sure that the band's logo is the actual focal point. So that's the thing. Then, of course, our summoner duder right here, and we can do that with more like big blown out lights, the hues and stuff. How would you do the shadow on the ground? Like, how do you know how big to make it and what angle? Okay, so that is that's a great question. Also, that is a lot of math. So there's I don't know the exact formula. I think it's oh man, if you double the distance, there's a graph. An artist named James Gurney made a book called Color and Light, and I highly recommend it. And he actually has a formula that he uses, and he shows the math formula of it, and I was like, oh my god, that's crazy. But basically, if you double the distance, so this has to do with how light recedes in the background, but also that's going to talk about shadows, because the further a shadow is away, it's less likely to be a hard shadow, just because the contrast isn't there. But up close, the shadows are going to be crisp, they're going to be cast shadows, all that stuff. It depends on the intensity of the light, but what his formula is, as you double the distance, you break the intensity into 4. So it's like a gridded square. And then you do that again, and then you do that again, and that talks about how much light you're losing as you're moving back. So it depends on how bright your deal is. So this is actually nice. We don't have to worry about a lot of shadows here because this is overcast. And I actually did that on purpose. So overcast days don't really do shadows. They do a little bit, like this guy will have a shadow. That's why the contrast is so good. And we're going to keep it pretty high on him, because even though there's no real like sun beaming down to cast shadows or like hitting it at an angle, there's still going to be ambient light, and ambient light is still going to bounce around just like normal light, just not as intensely. It's the same thing as, you know, the shade that you have on your lamp at a house, and it diffuses that light because it has to go through that fabric. The sky and atmosphere acts that way. Oh man, thank you for that gift, my friend. So that it's there, and it has a big impact. All the fog and the smog. That's why whenever it's foggy outside, you can't really see anything because of how thick that air is. So we have a fairly thick atmosphere here, which means there's not going to be a lot of shadows. There's not going to be a lot of strong visual information. Now, what would cast a shadow is if one of these guys had like a spotlight, and they did the spotlight. Not only would basically, let's say this guy right here has a spotlight. I'll do this real quick. What you could do, basically, to do an easy shape is, as it gets further away, it's going to diffuse out almost like headlamps, you know? So I could actually mimic the look of that light. Is I could do this, make an isosceles triangle, then I'm going to get a gradient, and I'm just going to make kind of a let me do reset gradients. Okay, let me do that. Okay, so now we have like we can do a linear gradient or a radial gradient. And then what's funny is we could just do this. We just go like, that's really extreme, of course, but that kind of shows what happens to light as it gets further from you. So it's like he has a flashlight almost. And, you know, if you come back here, it reads fairly well. It reads like he has maybe like a sci-fi sort of like light. If you want to see really good examples of it, it's okay. It's just magic. It's just, you know, it is what it is. Oh man, let me check. It would be anything Ridley Scott and Alien. So Prometheus, let's look at that. Prometheus. Images. Because he does that a lot in that movie. A whole lot in that movie. Especially in some establishing shots. Yes. So like, okay, let me move. So that just shows how light works. It starts, and it's the source of the light will always be the brightest, and then as it moves through space, it gets caught up in all of that mess that we know as atmosphere. and then it goes, and depending on the light source, you'll notice that right around the light source they have shadows, hard cast shadows, super hard cast shadows. But if you get further away and there's less light to work with, there's hardly any shadows because there's nothing lighting anything. So it's like, yeah. So essentially our main light source for our piece here is a sun that doesn't exist. Or it exists, but there's so many clouds and so much nasty pollution in the air. It just can't, yeah, it just can't, it doesn't have enough information to give you a shadow. Now, if we were to do this, and let's say I wanted to calculate, yeah, and that's true, we could do that as far as the laser. And what's nice is that way, the closer somebody gets to this, we can kind of mimic this. And we can go, and then like, since it's a long distance, it's going to be a long shadow, and it's going to point back to your light source. You're just going to draw a straight line, and then your item is going to obstruct the light, so that way it's going to continue that line of action. So something like that. It's really messy, and there's more math to it, of course, but like that's sort of what you get. And the same thing here. So the closer we would get to a super bright light source, it would make these rocks have more shadow on the parts that are away. You see what I mean? From that light source. And then you could even outline the rocks with a rim light. Because that is what's catching that light. And we might actually do that a little bit for some of the rocks, because see, that can give you just the basic information of like, oh, there's a different hue back here. There's a different, a color or value or whatever. And then depending on how close it is to this kind of supernova magic, the more blown out it's going to be. I actually really like that. I like the this right here, and then like, so if we do this, and then that also means if this is right next to the light, I could find some rock texture and then do a lot of this type of thing, like go and specular highlight around here, all of this information around where these highlights are. And then as it gets further back, we can do a little more shadows. So this is how you would put in that detail. How bright the light source should be determined. Yes. So distance and intensity really dictate what kind of shadows you have. And the nice thing is, another quick tidbit to remember as far as making life easier for yourself. If something is a form, so like it's a human face or something like that, the actual form of it, it's going to be soft shadows. The only thing that's going to cast a shadow is anything protruding. So if I had a bright light right here, in fact, let me actually go here. See how this shadow on the nose is it's darker right here because there's a lack of light information. The light's right here. This side's not getting the light. So it's like, this is occluded. But the nose can cast a shadow that way. So that's a harder shadow than like the shadow up on my forehead, like right here, that's just going away from the light. That's a smoother transition rather than the harsher transition of something like protruding and casting a shadow off. Another cool thing, and I know it seems like a lot to remember, but once you do it 200 and 300 times, it just kind of gets second nature. Only places where there's absolutely no light will be darker than your shadows, but shadows don't stack. So it's not like if you had, let's say you had like a let's do something like this, just real easy. You had this, let me get white here. So you had white coming over on this side, and then this is like, you know, shadow right here. Even if you had another item that was lit like this, to where this was the darker part and this is the shadow and it's a long cast shadow and whatever, whenever the two shadows meet, they're going to stay the same color. They're going to stay exactly the same, because it's not like I have a shadow of this and I have a shadow of this, and where they overlap, it's a darker shadow. Shadows don't do that for whatever reason. The light just evenly dissipates out, and then it just, the whole thing is the same. It's a really weird thing to say without seeing it in reality, but once you see it in reality, it's one of those things that doesn't make sense when you say it, but once you see it, you're like, oh yeah. There's actually a good website. Let me see if I can find the item. Yeah, it's weird. Art stacking shadows. So I think it was like Control Paint did a tutorial about it, to where like let's see, that's a good picture of it, but yeah, I guess this would be a fine picture of it. Let's drag this over. So this is a photograph, but you'll see there's a whole lot of shadows happening here, but you'll see these items right here, as they shadow on the wall, it all becomes one big mass of shadow. Like there's maybe subtle variance, but it's not necessarily darker. It's just a different hue. Now this one's the harshest shadow, but I bet there's also something back here that's darker that we're not seeing. So yeah, it can be complex, it can be difficult, but overall it's not impossible. And plus, it doesn't have to be exactly right. It doesn't have to be photorealistic. It just has to be believable. So if you know the general rule, you can fake it enough to make it look good in a piece of art. So what we need to do now is we need to add a whole bunch of people to this. And then once we get our people kind of figured out, I'm thinking we could do a nice curve to where it's like, if we start here, if we wrap around, we're almost, oh, that's an eraser. Let's go, boop. There we go. If we do something like this, we would want our line to maybe come right here, maybe through here, and then like come where he's at, and then kind of go over this and into it right there. So you have a route through the image. And then what we can even do here is, in fact, we kind of already did it. Well, I did a zigzag whenever I started painting this, and I kind of tried to follow that zigzag. So you can see it. Now if I hide that, you know, you can see that zigzag actually still exists. You know. So a lot of leading lines, as it were. Leading lines are always good. We need to add some people. Let's get... Yeah, we may, over on Unsplash, since we're here, we can look at waiting in line, because I want people kind of stacked together just to see... Ah, here we go. Beautiful. Beautiful. Something like so. See how this looks. Edit image. Transform, flip. And now what we will do, this will give us a whole bunch of people. So let's first mask out everything we don't need. What's kind of nice is this is kind of an overcast day as well. You can see the light source is hitting them on the left side, and then the shadows are being cast right here. But since those are cast shadows, they're easy to get rid of, which is why this is a pretty good reference for what we're doing, because it also seems like it's a slightly overcast day. Sculpt out this. That way we can see how well this actually fits. So the nice thing is, since we're going to be masking out and doing big old photo manip and all that stuff, we can change the density. And what I'm going to do, because it is weird to have kids on this type of piece, is I'm actually going to make them taller, and I'm going to shrink their heads. Because that's really the main difference between children and adults, is our height and the proportion of our body to our head. Normally when kids are growing up, they have like Cabbage Patch Kid heads, man. It's crazy. And then what's nice about this as well, this will have visual interest, and we can put these in places that we want the viewer to kind of pay attention to. Like for this one, for instance, I'm actually going to probably flip these. That way it's like pointing over to the giant thing in the background to really drive the point home. Going up on the monster. So it looks like, yeah. So it's going to be movement. It's going to be movement lines that we do at the end. It's going to be tricky anyway. So that's why what I was hoping to do is on this pull down here, it looks like it's raining, but there's no rain. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping to find a good way to like infer that detail, but there may not be a super effective way to do that, because really what would make that come alive is motion. I mean, whenever you see the motion and you would like play it in reverse or whatever, you know what I mean? And then that way you would get the idea that it's coming up. But what we could do is, yeah, we'll kind of look at some other art. I don't know exactly who would have art of that, but we can do a search for it. And that'll probably be one of the final special effect renders that we do. So that'll be probably a solid 10 hours from now, you know? Because, I mean, we're basically every single one of these people is a placeholder. So we're going to be doing paint overs of every single one of these people. They may not be super elaborate paint overs, but they're going to be paint overs nonetheless. Really right now it's just to get a big group of information in to make it make sense to our eye. That way we can see it and be like, yes, this looks good, now it's time to finish it. That ends up saving a lot of time in the long run, rather than just sketching and doodling and trying to figure shapes out and stuff. Why do that when there's millions of royalty-free photo packs and reference images that you can use free of charge? Like, use the tools you got, you know what I mean? That's one of the perks of digital, is you can do that. If you know how to work Photoshop, you can do a whole lot of stuff. All right, so something like this, and then we have that. Let me go to apply the layer mask. Let me grab this. We can even make them smaller, in fact. Let me apply layer mask. See, let's do then what we can do here, let's say you got that. They're a little too bright. So something like this. It's starting to come more together in that. And you have this, and then we can get even more. Let's see. All right, there we go. So we'll just kind of keep those as placeholders right now. And then we will actually move our duder. Do that. Then we'll get rid of those other little lines that we made. See, and like yeah, there we go. Something like that. And then let's do erase, erase. Oh, I see. Ha! We don't need that. Nope, nope. We're going to merge down and come over here. All right. Right, so now we have some information on the people, and then what we could do. I'm wondering if we can get super tiny. And just kind of give us a little bit. We can play with the repetition aspect, because the human brain's really good at seeing patterns. So I wonder if we put like So if we do something like that, and then we zoom out, since we see clumps of people, those little lines make that look like that's also clumps of people. Of course, we're going to refine it a little more, but I'm glad the illusion works. I'm glad that actually does what I wanted it to do. You know what I mean? Like, and then we can, like, let's make this trail. Come back over here. There we go. Something like that. Ooh, and this is what we can do too. We can actually have, like, maybe it's almost like a UFO abduction. Like a subtle little hint of something. But, yeah. Nope. Something like this. Let's see. So there we go. It's almost like a trail of ants, you know. You can see the people here, and then as it kind of goes around and it does that nice S curve, We have that. Drops in the pool. Oh, I see what you mean. Like, if it's like, if it's wider up top, and then it like, and then like up. Something like that. Let's see. Since we have an internet browser open, we can actually think of like water running up. What was that movie, Tenet, where they reverse time? Now I'm looking at graphs on how to run water uphill. So there's some Magic the Gathering art, but it didn't it's not water running uphill, it's water like standing still. But then it's still going downhill. Huh. Yeah. Well, it's an interesting thing because it's like we're going to have to deal with it at some point. You know what I mean? And I wonder what you know what we could do? The same way that we are inferring these little details, if we're showing what's actually happening here, maybe we can piece it together. So like if we do the blood magic like coming up maybe like a vertical here and make it really detailed and nice and sparkly and stuff, but then have somebody like being summoned up to the heavens, then you could, on this one, the closer one, you'll be like, I wonder how that's happening. But then you see back here and you're like, oh, some big ass thing is summoning them up. Go to splash again. Bow. Bow, 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 bow. Let's see. Let's do loading. Let's do floating. So we could do something like yeah, so something like this. So if it was like, if we copy this, here, let me mask this out. And of course, we're going to change the clothes and all that stuff. It's just, I want to get this shape in here and just see if this actually works well. think the only thing with this is we don't want it to look cheesy. And this is on the borderline. You know? Yeah. Yeah, right. And like, if this is bright, and we talked about light earlier, if this is super bright, but way back here, this would literally, this pool would literally do this. Let me get a soft airbrush and do this. This would be like, that's not even what oh, no, I want to do, yeah, this would be, you know what I mean? Like, it would be an absolute fucking supernova going off. Which is cool. Like, that's neat. But yeah, logistically it may not make sense, you know? About halfway, small enough to be able to see the body position, but the right place to see him being. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And what is kind of funny, that supernova actually looks pretty cool. Like, I like the overall idea. Maybe that's the secret. Maybe if we make it more magic, maybe if we really make it blown out and bright and supernova back here, and then what we can do with these reverse deals is almost like have that glow coming and emitting out of this, so that way you can see that the source of the energy is the pool and not his hand. Yeah. Interesting. And maybe what I really need to do, and this might actually help a little bit, let's find a good hand to really like put in there and design, and because then maybe we don't have the line come all the way up to his hand. Maybe it trails off. I don't know. Because it's like you want to show that he's siphoning that energy. Let's see. Ooh, yeah, we could do that. Maybe like triangulate that coming up. That'd be cool because that'd almost make it look like the Illuminati, which thematically fits, you know. Also where they end up. Gotcha. Yeah, so like what we could do is maybe have it. Oh, yeah. Maybe if we made this back here kind of bright like that, but also be triangulating the signal. And that's where we could put our duder doing the pose, but he would be more like, here, let's apply the layer mask. He would be more like, and what's cool about that is we can put him against the backdrop to see the clear silhouette of what's happening. Like, I think that can work pretty well. Let's go. See. Oh, I think instead of it all coming back to one, since we have that now, let's try this. Let's do kind of an oil brush here. And then color dodge. So like something like that. And then let me get rid of the box. We will get a bigger soft round. And then what we'll do is we will taper the intensity of this one And then what's cool is we can get almost like this one is starting to get summoned out. So like there's multiple different blown out places to where we could do that. So and then this would make way more sense to have blown out highlights. So, and this one's going out of frame. And then I bet if we add another person on this one, this will make more sense for all of these right here. That way you can kind of make it make sense in your mind what's happening. First, let's okay. Something like that. I'm gonna tune some of that red back a little bit, but this at least gives us a visual idea of what we're looking at. So let's look at more levitating. Oh, this would be dope. This is a good one. Copy image. Let's see. So let me go ahead and right. See. Yeah, let's put her where he is. Let's put because of the perspective. Because we want it to be right around there, and then something like this. I think we're getting there. And then I bet if we refine what we have here, I bet we're onto something. Like, so yeah, I think we're onto something pretty dope here. So if we do this and then we go like select all, edit, copy, merge, edit, paste. There we go. So I think something like this would be good, and then we can get the band logo. And start playing around with where we think that would fit the best. Because that way I can have all of that structured whenever I go in and I start and I start kind of modifying and really blending everything. Yeah, so this is all one layer right here. So like and then we have everything else, kind of all the odds and ends and people and the stuff like that. So and then the vibe that I want to get, because this is still very much the preliminary phase. Let me look at some Derek Zabrocki art. So the type of vibe we could get is like, let me zoom out here. So probably this level of finish with it. So Derek Zabrocki's real freaking good. He's one of the most renowned fantasy artists in the world. So we kind of see we have a good base here, I think, and then basically just tying it all together and making sure it looks right. And this also kind of shares that as far as like, here's a beam of light, here's a harsh. So like this is the overall vibe, the goal. So we can add smoke, we can add that type of stuff, but this is just to kind of block in where our things are, and then that way we know that what the design we're working on works, like the shapes and the vibe and all that stuff. So I was thinking of the logo actually going down here, but I know if this is the cover, we'd want to leave room for the name of the album. So we could because that might also answer some of our questions in regards to the composition. Because yeah, I was thinking logo maybe down here, and then I mean you could really put the title wherever, but let me get the band logo real quick. Let's come over here. Let's see. Let me bring this up so I can see all the all of the images. There we go. Let's see. I thought I had the logo saved. Ba-ba-ba-ba-bum. Here's what we can do. I thought it was in the group chat. That's what I was looking at, but yeah, apparently I didn't find it. So something like this. I was thinking either like down here for the band logo. You could also we could do the band logo here and also make it like the glowing red outline type stuff. Because like here, it's cool, and it kind of makes the most sense to have the name of the, like, have your guys' name right here, and then the name of the album down here. Well, maybe, you know what we could do? Let me see something real quick. Duplicate. Boom. So something like this. It makes it look kind of weird, but I mean, it's probably just because we've been so used to seeing it the other direction. This is actually a great way to see if stuff stays balanced, if it actually works well. So you can do band logo right up here, and then title, let's see, duplicate layer. Okay, cool. About that. So like, all right, let me open up the old chat. Bam. Okay, cool. Save as. I'm gonna save it in Death Sentience folder. Then that way I can boop open Death Sentience. Select all, edit, copy. We do this, and then I was thinking we could maybe like and if you go to we do that, then you like duplicate layer, and then something like this. So like this sort of deal, and then let's do this, and let's just go and logo. That way we can grab this and like kind of move it wherever we want. And then depending on where it is, I'll just do different layer blending modes to make it stand out. But it's almost like they're rising to Death Sentience, like they're being summoned. Make that tail smaller, yeah. So like, but you think something around right here should be fine? Okay. So something like that would be good. And then we can, of course, kind of put some stank on it around the borders and stuff and really kind of, you know, get rid of this line, but then have this line go over on the end. So we can integrate the logo. And the thing is, I'm going to be changing this hand anyway. Right, I just put like fingertips just to kind of show, hey, this hand is kind of open and over. That way you can see his palm. But we'll manipulate the hand so it's not touching the logo. Or it could be slightly, like the logo could slightly overlap it. Because what that does is that brings the band logo up to the front. You know what I mean? And then, so would this be Human Condition? Will this be, is it still that album, or is this going to be another album title? Because that way I can just, okay. So like, Human Condition. And we're not going to use this font, of course, but so there's our mock-up. You know what I mean? Like here's something that I feel comfortable showing Brady. You know, it's nice that he's here live. But yeah, so this is kind of the vibe that we would have for it. Of course, all of the figures and stuff are still, they're still kind of the stock photo. So we're not going to use them as is. We will make it a little more desolate, a little more kind of they're wearing rags sort of thing. But the poses are here. The structure of the people. You know, we can sort that out. And then like, yeah, I think once we get that hand nailed down, and then the way that the blood magic goes into the hand, I think it's gonna be pretty strong. And I like the fact that this is so far in the background that it's hard to see. Like all this stuff is so bright and cool, and then you're like, oh my god, look at the size of that thing back there. It's a pretty cool deal of atmospheric perspective. So yeah, man. Cool. And yeah, it's almost 2 o'clock. I was actually going to head out around 2. So this works out really well. I will take a screenshot of this. I'll send it to the group chat for the band to look over. And basically I will just say, hey, this is a detailed mock-up. So it's not final, of course. But here's where it's going. And yeah, I'm pretty, and like, of course I will make this a little more refined as well, to where kind of this is coming up, and then we'll make it look more like the people. And oh, dope. So yeah, I can actually just have this kind of right here if you wanted to screenshot that, and then yeah, we can tinker with it, we can manipulate it. But overall, I feel pretty strong with what we have, because we have the name of the title of the album is almost related to the most foreground person. So you're automatically, oh, does he represent the human condition? You know, like you're making that judgment call. And then all the rest of it is like, just this basic storytelling stuff, you know. So yeah, overall pretty happy with the progress we made today. especially considering we started with a, let's bring up the old, the old original. Yeah. Oh yeah. Wait, we gotta flip it. We gotta flip it. Image. Bammo. Look at that. Just as good, if not better. I'm just gonna put the logo on this one. D is for Death Sentience. It's like a children's book. That's what it's gonna be. But like, yeah, so basically, you talk about a sketch, then you talk about a final, like, that's the leap that you make. You know what I mean? So, that's the fun part about working, you know, with any client really, is show them a sketch like this and they're like, are you sure you know how to draw and paint and all that stuff? But then whenever you give them a final that's closer to this, they're like, oh crap, okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. But it's all here, you know. I mean, we have the people, the line of people, we have the rocky stuff, we have the summon demon with the glowing eyes, like the whole thing's here, but just making it make more sense in that context is better. So yeah, overall not bad, happy with that. So that's gonna be our time for today's stream. A lot of fun. I'm not gonna be streaming, well, I might stream a little bit tomorrow, but it might be a video game, who knows. Oh my goodness. But then Friday we're gonna be doing another Varia stream of brand new card that we're doing for the card game. So I'm excited about that one. It's gonna be a more basic composition, but I want it to be really strong, and I think it's gonna look really good. I can do a small little tidbit that it's going to be in the snow, and snow is something that I don't paint very often, but I always want to get in there and like really learn how to do it. So yeah, it'll be fun. But that's it for me for today. Thank you all so much for hanging out. Straw, thank you for the gift sub to our good friend Brady here, and yeah, we'll be doing Straw's stuff after we finish up the Varia commission and the Death Sentience commission. I gave a due date for Straw's piece for the end of this month, so I want to ship it out to him before there, get him a tracking number, all that. We're going to be doing a digital piece. Part of it's already done, and then we're going to print it off and then draw on top of the print. So it has a mix of digital and traditional. Very, very cool. It's some Dishonored fan art for the game Dishonored. Very neat. But yeah, we'll take a look at that probably in the next week or so. And I'm also going to be refilming my entire portrait tutorial, all 12 hours of video that got corrupted. We get to start over from scratch, so that's what I'll be doing when I'm not streaming. And yeah, so I put a YouTube video out about what happened there. Yeah, that was a fun time. I almost threw everything out of a window whenever I realized that I had worked for 12 hours of pure video, just doing line by line discussions, and it all went away. It's all corrupted. So yeah, that's it for me. You guys take care, and I will see you maybe tomorrow, but if not tomorrow, Friday for sure. So yeah, we'll see you then.